I'm Bill Lessard.
And I'm Steve Baldwin.
And this is The Real Web. Today we're talking with Crispus Attucks of Urban Expose.
What's with the pseudonyms, man? We've hidden behind pseudonyms ourselves for our own reasons until we published our book, more or less. But what reasons do you have for calling yourself Crispus Attucks? And the young lady I was just speaking to, her name is Harriet Tubman. What's the story, man?
It's a web revolution. And I was the first guy that's going out there and basically getting on the front lines and hopefully avoiding getting shot. But, I'm out there trying to create interesting content on the web.
Are you afraid of someone's attorney, or you're afraid of someone actually getting pissed off at you? I mean, what's the story?
We don't have any content, I think, that crosses any legal boundaries. It's more that it's just that sometimes bylines distract, I think, from the actual core conversation that you have when you write an article. Sometimes there's an argument to be made for that. Sometimes a certain writer is lauded so much awarded so much praise that you take what he says, as word, without exactly examining the worth of what he said, just based on his reputation. And the same can go the other way. Sometimes a writer's reputation is so bad that when he does say something truly interesting and worthwhile listening to, so we do away with bylines, and it's an experiment in anonymous stuff. And also, to be honest with you, obviously this gives us the chance to maneuver around a lot within the industry, and with some nice results.
I would imagine also that it creates a mystique about who you are and what you're doing.
That definitely adds to it. But I think that, in all, I think only a small percentage want to really know who's really behind the site. And, it's kind of interesting in the fact that how it plays out. But I think that the name Crispus speaks on many levels, and I'm letting people figure it out for themselves. It's a web revolution, man.
What gave you the idea to launch the site?
Okay, well, it was just a side project that came up, and I felt that it was needed. A lot of times in urban entertainment, they often cry about the unbalanced reporting, the lack of really media-savvy sort of dissection of what they do, as though mainstream press sort of ignores them, And, now they've got a forum for really getting dissected and being under the microscope and being examined thoroughly from top to bottom. And, and obviously their first reaction is that they're crying foul. It's what they wanted for the longest time. Now they've got it.
You've been listening to part 1 of our conversation with Crispus Attucks. Stay tuned for more of The Real Web.
What's wrong with the way urban-oriented websites are being built, and what's wrong with working at those companies?
There's nothing wrong with them. They have a lot of great ideas, a lot of talented people, and a lot of money. The only thing is, obviously, is that coming from a love of urban entertainment from myself, is that they're making a lot of mistakes that a lot of other companies have made, and continuing to make. The same mistakes that they make, a lot of entertainment websites are actually making.
What are those mistakes typically?
Well, those mistakes often lie upon a general malaise that happens in every media. There's sort of the follow me, go to sort of things. And they sort of do the same bland things like branded email and chat and other insipid things like that they think build community and stickiness. It's really these bland sort of things that people tell them is sticky, and branded email, which includes your login, your email address here. This company might friggin' go away in a little while. There's no, why would you have your email there? The cost and the infrastructure to do that, It's all boring stuff. See, when you're in television, right, you can, the bland stuff, there's only but so many channels. Of course, that's increased, but there's only so many channels to watch. On the web, there's a million sites competing for eyes. And when you're doing the same sort of bland stuff and actually spending a lot more to do it, in some cases, it actually, you find you have a lot of companies that just disappear in a year or two, or websites that just disappear, because there's no way they can keep that burn rate up and doing the same sort of bland things. It doesn't work. That's how come a lot of time these little sites that, are really the ones blazing and pioneering, making noise above all the mediocre content that's out there. They provide something that people are looking for. They're bold, they're taking chances. And when I say take chances, you don't have to take chances with just, unfortunately, some people equate taking the chances with, racial stereotyping in Flash cartoons. But, there's really bold ways you can really draw a crowd in. And those things are just not, chat systems and empty chat rooms.
You've been listening to part 2 of our conversation with Crispus Attucks. Stay tuned for more of The Real Web.
In your opinion, who's worse? Urban sites that don't get it, or like these white liberal sort of like people PC type of people who think that black people and Hispanics and Latinos don't know anything about the web? Who's worse?
Well, to be honest with you, the funny thing about the urban market is that it crosses racial lines, which is what makes it so attractive and why VCs have funded it. That part there's nothing wrong with that. The problem comes in that both in urban and mainstream sort of sites, even though it could be argued that urban is a significant portion of mainstream, they don't completely get the whole content thing. They come, they feel they can conquer. I think one of the biggest things about the urban space is that they hire a lot of music executives who have like sort of a hit model. Like, when you build up an album promotion, you spend a lot of money on promoting it and building up feelings before the album even comes to build up anticipation. Can't do that with a website. You promote a website that's not there, good. I feel sorry for you. What a waste of bread, because they're not coming. If it's not there that first time, there's a million other sites there for them to go to.
Now, there are also these magazine-oriented people who are working in the biz, right?
Right.
Now, what mistakes do they make?
Well, the magazine people, the thing is that they put a lot of weight on the writing, and I think that is the key. That is the key to a successful site, obviously, the content. But I think a lot of times the companies, sometimes they may hire a lot of writers at exorbitant salaries. Well, I don't want to criticize that. I'd rather say that the main thing magazine people come to is that they think all of a sudden that this is a medium where things could be moving and and they forget that on the web, it's better with a magazine. It's okay to, let's say, have an article on top of like a really weird background. When you start getting into on the web, it doesn't really translate that well. But I think magazine people probably get it a lot better than necessarily the music industry people. But there's also a gray area where a lot of people don't know and they're still learning. And that's why Urban Expose really exists, to raise the bar sort of on all these things. And they get to learn how to really do a real analysis. I think a lot of the mistakes that they make are made. There's a big gray area where a lot of people don't know anything. Mm-hmm. And obviously there's a few people that do get it and they're thriving successfully. And that's where the real web is at.
You've been listening to part 3 of our conversation with Crispus Attucks. Stay tuned for more of The Real Web.
What do you make of this whole, well, it's kind of not, it's not very newsy right now, but what do you think of the whole issue about urban fetch and Cosmo and basically how urban areas themselves have been treated by the web and new technology in general?
So we're talking about digital redlining?
Yeah, we're talking about redlining. I mean, and also the legacy of it is like, okay, well, broadband in urban areas, and, like net gross. A friend of mine told me that he can't get net grosser in Yonkers.
Right.
Stuff like that. What do you think of that? I mean, it's like, all right, everybody's interested in urban culture when they can sell it to white teenagers from Scarsdale, but actually going into the areas, well, forget about it. Who cares?
Oh, exactly. I agree with you with that. Well, it's unfortunate, but the reality is whenever you're making business decisions, I mean, a lot of times it's based on demographic information, and the information they have available to them says that XYZ groups, would not be interested in this service, or the cost versus necessarily, other social issues. It may be better to avoid certain areas. I'm not condoning the practice by any means, because in the meantime, a lot of the areas that are going through transitions, either going through a gentrification stage or perhaps, phasing to a middle class stage, kind of get left out in the cold. And obviously that leaves out a lot of middle class Black and Latino people who may be digitally connected and left out in the cold. I'm definitely not condoning the practice, but, a lot of times they base their information not necessarily knowing the area. That's the time to probably bring in some sort of consultants and maybe local leaders and, a grassroots sort of thing where you can work out how this could work.
What can you tell us about your prior life, right, before the Internet came along? What can you tell us without jeopardizing any secrets?
I'm not who anybody thinks I am, and that's great. I mean, about myself, I'm Crispus. I do these content things on the web. I wish I could link them all together, but I can't. This particular one is very interesting. Experiment in a niche community and low-cost content creation. One of the things about the site, obviously, we're very happy about is that we snuck into the million hit margin with no advertising, no search engine entries, with misleading meta tags. We don't need any meta tags that say sex or MP3. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Love Napster. Just under a month of operation. We got a strong user base, core technology, and profitable. We turn down a lot of ads, by the way.
Well, why do you turn them down?
You can't support a web business on ad revenue. We could, but not these $25 million behemoths. We could support on it. But the reason we turn it down is only because it's not clear about the conflict with the content. We would like to reserve the right to be very selective about the sponsorships that we choose. You don't want to do a deal just because you can do it, which I think a lot of web companies make the mistake in doing. They just do any deal handed to them. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Nah. And I'm not paying for it either. You make it. You show it to me. You need us. We don't need you.
What are your goals for Urban Expose?
We're going to expand and do film and television, publishing and music.
Okay, so basically you want to become the thing you've been criticizing.
Yeah, we want to become a monstrosity. No, we don't want to become bloated. We just want to cover, use that same hip style of writing and cover television and film.
I'm Bill Lessard.
And I'm Steve Baldwin.
Thank you for tuning in to The Real Web.